might want to go get yourself a cup of coffee or maybe some tea or water or a glass of milk and join me for another story in the cold Minnesota spring. Now this story is called Icy Biking, and it is a story that I forgot that I had written, but I do want to include it. And what made me remember it was a number of things, but one of them was watching the weather this morning after I got up. And my name is Naomi Yaeger, and I live in Duluth, Minnesota, and I have written a manuscript, and the tentative title is Pink Hollyhocks, and then the subtitle is Tales of Joy in Hard Times. But I'm still at that title. Anyway, last time I read a story about footprints in the snow, and that was actually the spring. See this picture here? This is footprints in the snow. And then today when I watched the weather, we might not be getting snow, but it looked like some people not too far of us might be getting. However, my husband, when he went in our backyard this morning, he said he did see snow. So I thought, oh, I'll tell this story about icy biking. Sometime after St. Patrick's Day, Jim was out riding his bike when the next thing he knew, he woke up on the dining room table. Unfortunately, his bicycle wheels slipped on the ice, and he took a tumble and hit his head so severely that he was knocked unconscious. "Help!" Gordon shouted. He ran into their house. "Help!" he shouted. Russell and Winifred jumped up from their chairs in the living room. "Something's wrong with Jimmy!" he shouted, and he gasps for his breath. "He was riding his bike and he fell, and he doesn't get back up." Russell, Winifred, Pa Hansen, and Mr. Crawley all ran out of their respective front doors into the street. Jim lay on the ground, not moving. Mr. Crawley, not moving. Winifred knelt to touch his cheek and held her hand near his mouth. She felt moist air coming out of his nose. "Oh dear, he's been knocked out," Winifred whimpered. "Russell, you hold his head steady, while Mr. Crawley holds his feet," Pa Hansen directed. "Mrs. Meinhardt, hold up his middle, and Gordon, you go to the front door and open it so we can get him in your house." Pa Hansen helped Russell near the top of Jim's body, and they all lifted. Then they slowly walked to the Meinhardt's house. Janette, Helen, and George stood silently as they watched. Once inside the house, the adults carried his body to the dining room table. There they laid him out flat. "Gordon," Winifred directed, "run over to Grandma Nelson's and tell the operator to connect you with Dr. Williams in Slayton." Jim regained consciousness while lying on the table. Whether someone drove Jim to the doctor's office in Slayton or if the doctor drove to Avoca is not known. Jim spent the rest of that spring with one arm in a plaster cast. Winifred used long kitchen dish towels folded at an angle with a knot at the back of Jim's neck to elevate his wounded arm. For the rest of his life, that broken arm was slightly shorter than the other. It was nothing that anyone would notice unless the sleeve for that arm was not altered by tailoring. Winifred measured him and kept a pattern for him so that she could alter his shirts to fit him. And Mom told me a story that one time when they were adults, everybody drew names for Christmas and she got Jim's name. And so she sewed him a shirt. And when he first opened it, he was really examining the length of the arms and he was like thinking, oh no. But surprisingly, Mom had his measurements and she made the length just exactly so. And so he was happy with his Christmas present. Anyway, back to that icy spring. That spring, when Jim was sitting in class with his broken arm, it itched so much that he would take a ruler or a long pencil and carefully stick that ruler or pencil into the side of his cast to scratch his skin. He noticed bits of dry white skin sloughing off his arm where he scratched. The scratching felt good at first, but after a while, nothing he did would stop it from itching. Finally, he learned just to ignore the itching. It was the only way to get through the day. Thank you for listening to this story, and I hope to see you next time when we will read a story about poor Jimmy who got hit by a car.